So, we're getting up early to go house hunting. A couple messages that were left to me last night. Something that I've been not avoiding talking about, but haven't been real keen on bringing up because everybody's going to believe what they want to believe anyway. But I figure why not just go ahead and talk about it. When I talk about how something shouldn't have a 5,000 mile oil change because of the type of motor it is, or something is inherently problematic, like the intake manifold bottom belly pan blowing out on the 5.2 Magnum, 5.9 Magnum motors. And you have people that pop up and say, well, it's the reason there's carbon inside that motor is because you're not servicing that vehicle enough, or this customer's not servicing that vehicle enough, or you're telling people they shouldn't go 5,000 mile OCIs with their Fusion. 5,000 should be fine. It's not the oil. It's this, it's not that, it's this. I'm like, guys, stop. It doesn't always come down to what you think is the right thing. When I say that, motors sometimes inherently have engines, sometimes inherently have problems that cause these things to have to be sped up. So, for instance, like with the EcoBoost motors, you have an instance where it's a boosted engine. They're dirty. They get dirty very, very fast. There's a lot of fuel wash in those motors and stuff in general. And it's kind of like one of those things where no matter what you do, you're going to have issues with that motor. So your whole theory and thought process about, oh, you're telling people 5,000 OCIs is on the brink of too much, it's because you don't understand that engine. You don't understand the inherent issues that go along with it. The fact that that motor, that fact that intake manifold has a layer of oil that is actually brought back in from crankcase blow-by, and it's allowed to fill up so much before it actually drains back into the motor. It's a dirty engine, not drained back into the motor, sucked in through the intake side. So there's a reason why guys that are in the field that specialize in Toyota or Honda or whatever it may be will say this is what you should do. This is what we see is more appropriate than what the manufacturer is telling you. Is because we see these vehicles all the time and we see what goes on with them. So your thought process on how something should be serviced doesn't apply anymore. When you're on these oil groups and stuff like that, and they're telling you, oh no, this and this is how it should be, and that's how it should be, and send off for your oil analysis. Your oil analysis is going to tell you. A lot of that stuff doesn't even apply to specific application issues. When I'm sitting here telling you, I don't like to see a 5,000 OCI in an EcoBoost engine. I like to see something between 3,000 and 4,000. The reason for that is when the vehicles come in at about 3,000, they're still pretty clean. They don't have a lot of fuel smell. They seem like they're actually running very, very well. Closer to 4,000, I'm starting to smell a lot of fuel in the oil. 5,000, the fuel is like gritty sludge. Or not sludge, but gritty, like dark oil, and there's a lot of fuel smell in it. It's almost like it's been washed out completely and diluted. It's not a good deal. So that's why I recommend what I recommend, because of the type of motor that it is. It's very dirty. Very dirty. Same with the Magnum motor. Some dude popped up last night and said, oh, the reason you're getting all that material in that oil filter when you cut them open is because whoever had that vehicle wasn't changing the oil enough. Well, obviously you don't understand the characteristic behind this motor. They could have been servicing the vehicle completely fine. But when you have an intake belly pan issue on those Magnum motors that are notorious for blowing out the seal, and then oil getting sucked up into the intake manifold and then put back into the motor and being burned just like those EcoBoost engines, you start to get a lot of contamination, a lot of soot and debris buildup and stuff in the oil that's going to accumulate over time. You don't even have to have a low OCI for that stuff to show up. It's, no matter what you do, there are inherent problems with motors. And people need to understand, just because your theory or what you've been told on some oil group or something somewhere doesn't mean that it applies to every single motor that's out there. And just going by general statistics on what people say on a broad spectrum doesn't apply to every single vehicle. So, this is a talk that we needed to have. Don't think just because you know what an OCI should be, or you know that it's a full synthetic oil, it's a high detergent oil, that there's not going to be a problem. Learn your motor, learn your vehicle, learn your setup, learn the problems that it has, and learn what's best recommended to go along with it. That's where your mindset needs to be. Not looking at some oil group that tells you, oh, this is how it should be. Those guys don't know. They're not out here working in the field, seeing these engines and stuff like that. They're on a damn database wanting to talk shit and have a coffee group on the internet. I mean, they're just another group of people that all want to be in one mindset and camaraderie and stuff and just kind of fit along with each other. You don't see these things like we do. Now, there's nothing wrong with those groups. A lot of what those groups say I actually agree with. And some of the stuff that they say, I think they're full of shit. Seeing as some guy says he was a chemical engineer back in the day, or this guy says he was handy and worked in some processing packing plant, or one guy said I was on a team for Roush for 3 years back in the day and this is what happened, so this makes... No. How about I do this every single day and this is my life for the rest of my life? Doesn't that trump something? I would think so. Stop believing everything that you hear and go to the people that work on these things every day. Ask them the questions. They're the one that's going to be able to tell you the best answer. Y'all be blessed.